We are starting today with Vince McMahon news, as another woman has come forward with some concerning allegations regarding the former WWE chairman. In the 1980s and 1990s, Missy Hyatt was a prominent figure in wrestling and was part of WCW and WWE, and she has alleged that McMahon attempted to force himself on her. In a recent interview with James Romero of WSI, the former valet made her claim against the 78-year-old billionaire as she said, "I had to push Vince out of my hotel room because he was trying to stick his tongue in my mouth. After I did that, the next thing I know, they want me to be a featurette. I'm like, I don't want to be a featurette. Oh well, we're gonna do something with you and the honky tonk man, this, that, and the other, blah 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 blah. I didn't trust them, so I left and I had to go beg Jim Crockett and Dusty Rhodes for a job." Hyatt, who was engaged to wrestler Eddie Gilbert at the time, also noted that part of her rejection stemmed from McMahon's poor dental hygiene. She said, "That night he walked me to my hotel room and he was trying to get in. I was pushing him out saying, 'Get out.' I was engaged at the time. If I wasn't engaged, maybe, but he had such bad teeth, and it's like, you're a millionaire many times over and you can't get your teeth fixed? He's got really bad teeth." Hyatt recently said that after she rejected McMahon's advances, he quickly soured on her as reflected in her booking at events, and McMahon has not publicly commented on her claims. McMahon is already facing a federal probe and Janelle Grant's lawsuit, and with these new allegations coming to light, it remains to be seen what's to come with WWE's former chairman. In recent weeks, Logan Paul and LA Knight have been feuding on WWE TV, with the megastar making clear he wants a shot at Paul's United States title. Now their beef has transcended to social media, as on Twitter, Paul shared a video belittling Knight and attempted to tag the popular superstar in his tweet. In a rather embarrassing moment, Paul used the completely wrong tag for Knight, and in response, LA mocked that a social media influencer can't even tag him correctly. Paul fired back, saying that for such a WWE megastar, Knight can't win a title, and indeed the veteran is yet to hold any gold since joining the main roster years ago. Will Knight's first title win see him dethrone Logan Paul? Only time will tell, but expect the war of words to continue even if the Maverick doesn't appear on SmackDown. The last time the WWE Universe saw Brock Lesnar compete, it was at SummerSlam 2023, and earlier this year, Lesnar was pulled from the Men's Royal Rumble match and all future plans. That's because Lesnar is referenced in Janelle Grant's lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE, leaving fans speculating on when, if ever, they'll see the Beast in the WWE ring again. The Beast incarnate was recently spotted at his son's hockey game, where the former WWE Universal Champion kept a low profile. Only time will tell when Lesnar will return to WWE TV, if that ever happens, but the Beast is keeping himself occupied while his wrestling future hangs in the balance. The last time fans saw Roman Reigns, it was at WrestleMania 40 Sunday, where Cody Rhodes finished the story and ended Reigns' 1,316-day run as champion. While Solo Sikoa has been appointed the head of the Bloodline in Reigns' absence, fans are awaiting the Tribal Chief's return, and that could be happening soon? On Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez said that the fan response is turning Reigns and Paul Heyman into babyfaces, as audiences have been respecting Reigns' run on top. WWE has been making it clear that Reigns will be back soon, and Alvarez reported that his comeback will be happening in July, ahead of this year's SummerSlam event. In the meantime, Roman Reigns is also working on a movie with Keanu Reeves, but it may not be much longer until the Tribal Chief returns to WWE, possibly at odds with the new Bloodline. In recent weeks, Piper Niven and Chelsea Green have been targeting Bayley, and after the latest SmackDown, it was announced that Niven will challenge the Women's Champion this month. Their title match will come at Clash at the Castle in Niven's native Scotland, but the hometown pop for Niven isn't the only reason this match is happening. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was said that this match is to fill time before the inevitable title showdown between Bayley and Nia Jax at SummerSlam. As Queen of the Ring, Jax has a guaranteed title match at the August PLE, and between her and Piper Niven, Bayley certainly won't have it easy over this summer. But what did you make of all this? Are you excited to see Niven get a title match in her native Scotland? Sound off in the comments. Over to TNA Wrestling now, as the company recently parted ways with Lou D'Angeli, who had worked for years with the company, and the reason for his departure has since come out. According to PW Insider, sources within TNA revealed that there had been some strain in the relationship in recent months, especially regarding how the company tours. D'Angeli had been advocating for TNA to depart from their usual practice of running the same cities on consecutive nights, but management did not move forward with this strategy. Additionally, there were issues with dates and cities being communicated to staff and wrestlers, only for the scheduling to change multiple times, which frustrated the talent. As the head of the live events division, D'Angeli found himself in the challenging position of being questioned by talent without having clear answers from higher-ups. With that in mind, a meeting last week between Anthem execs and D'Angeli saw the two sides agree to part ways, with Anthem later contacting D'Angeli to confirm this decision. The reason among TNA's roster regarding D'Angeli's exit has been strong, with PW Insider reporting that there's been a mixture of disbelief and sadness. D'Angeli had been a strong advocate backstage, encouraging talent to take on additional roles in TNA, similar to the strategy ECW employed when D'Angeli began his career in the business. D'Angeli started in ECW as an on-screen talent, before later taking up roles in promotion and marketing, and years later, D'Angeli performed a similar strategy with TNA wrestlers. One talent said D'Angeli appeared to be trying to set up future roles for talents for when their in-ring careers would conclude, and his exit will be keenly felt, especially in the short term. D'Angeli isn't the only departure, as RD Evans also recently parted ways with TNA, and we'll have to see what the future holds for those who have recently parted ways with TNA wrestling. During her time with WWE, Tiffany Stratton has held the NXT Women's title and has become a popular star on the main roster, thanks in part to her impressive character work. On a recent edition of the Battleground podcast, Stratton was asked about her character work and revealed it's not all that different to who she is in real life. She explained, "I think there isn't really much balancing for me. I think it all comes naturally because the character that I play, it's more so me, just turned up a couple of notches. Obviously, I feel like those are the best characters in wrestling is when it's authentic and it's you, so I feel like I don't really have to focus on it that much. So I kind of just go out there and do whatever I feel and it works." It's often been said that the best characters in wrestling are just turned up versions of the wrestler themselves, with Stone Cold Steve Austin being a prime example of this attitude. In addition to her wrestling career, Stratton also shared her aspirations of venturing into Hollywood by the time she's 30, giving the 25-year-old 5 years to make the move. In those 5 years, Stratton appears poised to make waves both in and out of the ring, as the SmackDown superstar's authenticity has clearly won over fans so far. In 2019 and 2020, Seth Rollins played a religious zealot character on WWE programming who dubbed himself the Monday Night Messiah and would even have his own disciples. Buddy Murphy, AOP, and Austin Theory were a part of Rollins' congregation, but this gimmick may not have been intended for Rollins in the first place. Sitting down with the Metro, Elijah, who fans will remember in WWE for his time as Elias, claimed he had come up with the idea first before it was stolen from him. He said, "There was a character that I thought could have been incredible myself, and it was the Monday Night Messiah. And if you realize, Seth Rollins and AOP ended up, for lack of better terms, they just gave it to those guys." Despite this, Elijah emphasized that there were no hard feelings between him and Rollins, and he added that his portrayal would have been more of a cult-like leader with biblical undertones. Instead of the Monday Night Messiah, Elijah's biggest angle would come in 2022 with the introduction of Ezekiel, though this angle ultimately backfired for the wrestler. Elijah has said that the storyline had a detrimental effect on his career and believes that it was the end of the Ezekiel storyline that led to his eventual release from the company. Now Elijah's time with WWE has come to an end, but what do you make of the claim that WWE stole his Monday Night Messiah gimmick? Sound off down in the comments. During the latest AEW collision, JD Drake and Anthony Henry squared off against Daniel Garcia and Katsuyori Shibata in a solid tag team match that saw Shibata and Garcia get the win. Following the conclusion of the match, JD Drake took to Twitter and revealed that he was in intense pain during the bout as he suffered a foot injury, but ultimately powered through. We can only hope this injury won't force him to miss ring time, as Drake only recently reunited with Anthony Henry, who had been out with a jaw injury suffered at a non-AEW event. Hopefully we'll get an update on Drake's condition very soon, and in the meantime, we're sending our best wishes at this unfortunate time. On last week's NXT, rapper Sexyy Red was part of the show and was part of the unveiling of the NXT Women's North American Championship. Red was all over the show, as it was confirmed she will be the host of NXT Battleground, and later was seen with Trick Williams, but not everyone is a fan of the performer. After Booker T suggested that Red and Lola Vice have a twerk-off, Brooks Jensen took to Twitter to share his frustrations with what's been going on. Jensen said that it hurts that talent like himself have worked hard in the Performance Center only to be exiled and see things like this on NXT programming instead. Jensen's comments did spawn a backlash, and in response, he said that fans should focus on the likes of Vice and others being talented wrestlers rather than whose ass jiggles the most. Brooks said that ultimately, WWE is wanting to keep the crotch petters entertained in a harsh shot at the company, but one that those in WWE may have planned. Jensen is currently in a storyline which has put him at odds with WWE and NXT management, and was even kicked out of an NXT event in Tampa with a sign mocking Shawn Michaels. Jensen is expected to return to NXT with a new gimmick that has had fans excited. And what do you make of these comments from the superstar? More from AEW is on an edition of AEW Control Center. It was announced that Saraya would take on Mariah May on the May 29th show in what would be Saraya's first singles match of 2024. When the show happened though, this match was nowhere to be seen, and Saraya would even suggest that she'd soon be speaking about the matter in a now deleted tweet. In an initial report, it was said that the match had incorrectly been advertised for the show, and that it had been scheduled for this week's Dynamite all along instead. In an update from Wrestling Observer Radio, it was suggested that the Saraya May match was scheduled for last week before the decision was made to put Mercedes Moné on instead. With these seemingly conflicting reports, it's hard to say what exactly happened with the match and whether it will take place on this week's edition of Dynamite. After close to 5 years on the shelf, Saraya is relishing every opportunity she gets to wrestle, but getting to the match with Mariah May is proving easier said than done. It was during WWE King and Queen of the Ring that Triple H revealed that Drew McIntyre had been cleared to wrestle again and announced a title match for Clash at the Castle. After last week's SmackDown, Drew returned to the ring for a dark match which saw him lose to Jey Uso, and the following night, he was part of his first WWE live event in months. That show in White Plains, New York saw McIntyre in triple threat action as he and Jey unsuccessfully challenged World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest. Priest may have retained on that night, but McIntyre intends to win in his native Scotland on June 15th, especially now that he's back from his hyperextended elbow injury. Back to AEW, as last week's Dynamite saw the promotion start the build towards Forbidden Door, and the event had an unlikely guest in attendance backstage. Fightful Select reports that former WWE superstar Mansoor was backstage at the show, though it's unclear if he was there for a casual visit or to talk business. Since departing from WWE, Mansoor has been actively involved in the independent wrestling circuit and recently worked with the popular SGW Uganda promotion alongside Mason Madden. The models were recently spotted backstage in a TNA taping, and when asked about whether this means they plan on signing with TNA, Mansoor said, "We're keeping all options open. We've been talking to everybody, honestly. We've been backstage at TNA, we've talked to people all over the place." It'll be interesting to see if Mansoor signs with TNA, AEW, or goes somewhere else entirely. And for the time being, the Saudi star continues to have fans interested in his plans. But what do you make of Mansoor being at Dynamite in LA? Should he join AEW or TNA, or keep doing his thing on the independent circuit? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. From one ex-WWE name to two more now, as the Bollywood Boys were let go in 2021 and are remembered for their time as Sunil and Samir Singh when they worked with Jinder Mahal. Since being cut, the former 24/7 champions have worked the indies and a spot or two in AEW, and now more has come out about their WWE release. When a Twitter account shared footage of Grayson Waller's debut, which was against Gurv Shira, Shira shared that his right shoulder dislocated early in the match. Shira fought through the pain to finish the match, but his hopes that this would impress management were in vain, as he was fired 3 weeks later while in rehab. Shira added that there's never a good time to get released, but he was gutted to be let go while recovering from the injury he suffered working for WWE. Gurv concluded by saying that he's proud of the work he and his brother did in WWE, but that didn't save both of them from being let go, even after Gurv's body paid the price for the company. In September 2023, WWE and UFC were officially merged into TKO Group Holdings, and fans have been speculating ever since about potential crossover. While you may see WWE stars at UFC events and NXT Battleground will be at the UFC Apex, there's yet to be WWE versus UFC fighters, and that's because the partnership has been minimal. At the post-show press conference following UFC 302, Dana White was asked about crossing over with WWE and admitted that the two companies have very little interaction. He said, "It's very separate. I haven't worked with them at all. I do what I do, and they do what they do. They're using some of the people from my team to help them in different areas, business-wise, but as far as putting on live events, I mean, WWE is very good at what they do, and we're very good at what we do. And yeah, that's about as far as it goes." The "some people from my team" comment is in reference to Endeavor merging WWE and UFC's live events teams last month into one TKO body, which has led to some layoffs in WWE. We are just days away from the first WWE event to be held at the UFC Apex, but what do you make of the news that the two sides are very separate? Let us know down below. More from the world of UFC now, as like we said, UFC 302 recently took place, and one name who was watching the show closely was the Final Testament's Rezar. During the show, Rezar threw out a challenge to the heavyweights of the UFC, saying that he's ready, and touted his own 6-2 MMA record. Rezar's most recent MMA fight occurred at Bellator 130 back in 2014, where he faced Daniel Hallamore and suffered a second-round TKO defeat. His most recent victory in a cage also took place in 2014 for Bama and saw him win in seconds in the first round. And we can't count out a return to the octagon for Rezar. Would you like to see Rezar step back into the octagon? And what other WWE superstars would you like to see compete in UFC? Let us know down below. In April 2022, Parker Boudreaux was released from his WWE NXT contract, and his time with AEW ended earlier this year, but now the former Harland has made his debut for OVW. Boudreaux dismantled his opponent with ease at OVW's latest event and shared a clip on social media, and expect big things for the former superstar in Ohio Valley Wrestling. Before she was part of New Japan and AEW, Mercedes Moné spent years as Sasha Banks in WWE, where she built up a reputation as one of the company's top female wrestlers. Moné's time as the boss ended in May 2022 when she and Naomi walked out of WWE over creative differences, and a lot has been said about her conduct ever since. On the Behind the Turnbuckle podcast, former WWE employee Tommy Carlucci spoke about Moné and claimed that she had been difficult to work with during her WWE run. Jonathan Coachman, who was also on the podcast, recalled returning to WWE and said that Moné had a reputation backstage at the time of his return. Coach added that Moné has never been a star on the level of Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, or Rhea Ripley, and was blown away with the number Moné reportedly sought in contract talks. Clearly, AEW feels having Moné on board is the right call, as the CEO is the reigning TBS champion, but Moné was not everyone's cup of tea during her WWE run. When Nick Nemeth's time with WWE ended in 2023, fans predicted he'd be joining the stacked roster of AEW, but that didn't happen, and he joined TNA instead. Speaking on the Eyes Up Here podcast, though, Nemeth revealed that he did speak to Tony Khan about potentially joining, and the AEW president had plenty to offer. He said, "I talked to Tony a long time ago, and he was like, just so you know, you can do anything you want while you work here. He wants everyone to have a good time and doing the best possible thing. That's awesome, and a lot of people did think I was going to AEW, and I love a bunch of people in AEW. I love AEW. Tony's freaking great. I was just weighing my options and figuring out I didn't have a plan. I've got this thing in my head. I want to go and make a name for myself on the independents, just to see if I can go outside of this New York bubble. I want to see if I can hang or be better or be the best everywhere around the world. I just got out of a long-term relationship. I'm not looking to get engaged or engaged to be engaged." Instead of AEW, Nemeth joined TNA, but has also worked with New Japan and AAA, and is the mega champion with the latter promotion. Could Nick Nemeth one day be All Elite? It seems anything is possible these days, especially with Tony Khan offering the wanted man plenty to join his company. And we're ending with Naomi, who returned to WWE as part of this year's Women's Royal Rumble match after an impressive run with TNA Wrestling. Naomi's time with TNA saw her become Knockouts champion and be presented as one of TNA's top stars regardless of sex, and the Glow is ready for other women to be elevated. Speaking to Fault magazine, Naomi discussed the state of women's wrestling in 2024 as she said, "I think now is the best the business has ever been for a female wrestler, thanks to women over the decades continuously breaking down barriers. I've seen a lot of growth and change in the industry since I started my career in 2009 with the way women are represented and treated in the business. Slowly but surely, women wrestlers have and are continuing to prove that we are draws, deserve the TV time, and wages equal to the men." Naomi also refuted the idea that being a wrestler is at odds with practicing femininity and claimed that the women of WWE show that one can be both feminine and tough as nails. Naomi has seen a lot of change since her career began 15 years ago, with women treated better than they were, and we'll have to see what the next 15 years hold for the women of pro wrestling.